Today we're going to learn some new vocabulary that will make our writing even better than it already is. And we know that our writing is fantastic. So first we're going to practice the vocabulary we've learned over the last few days, and then we'll go on with some new vocabulary. We're just going to write 3 sentences in French. I go by bus, he goes on foot, she goes by taxi, which should have a period at the end, shouldn't it? Right? So those 3 sentences. Press pause and write those 3 sentences in French in your notebook. Okay, here we have them in French. I go by bus. Je vais en bus. Say them after me. Je vais en bus. Il va à pied. Elle va en taxi. Beautiful. Okay, I'd like you to get out your notebooks to an area where you can take some notes. We're going to be learning about transition words. So just write transition words at the top of your page, because the words we're learning today are called transition words. The question is, what are transition words? So I'll give you a second to write that down, and then we'll go to the next slide. All right, please copy this down. Transition words are used to transition from one thought or piece of information to another. These are words we use to go from one thing to another within one sentence, sometimes within 2 sentences. It really depends on how we use them and what kind of grammar you're using. Different countries have different kinds of grammar, different languages. Okay, press pause if you need more time. So for example, in English, we have a sentence, I ate a sandwich, then I watched TV. Then is the transition word. You can see that here, I've put it in red. Then is the transition word. This word then, it transitions us from one idea to another. In this case, from one action to another, right? I ate a sandwich, then I watched TV. We're transitioning from eating the sandwich to watching the TV. It's 2 different activities, 2 different ideas. So here are the transition words we're learning today, and then we're going to write some sentences and read some sentences that will help us to be sure we understand them. So in your notebook, let's copy these down. This first one means first, which is pretty funny, huh? It's d'abord. Say it after me. D'abord. D'abord. Right? So first, I go to the park. D'abord, je vais au parc. Press pause if you want to copy the sample sentence. I think it's a good idea. But if you just want the word in the English, that's okay too. So be sure to press pause between each word so that you have time to write everything down. Then or next is puis. Say it after me. Puis. Puis. Puis je vais à la bibliothèque. So if I take the last sentence, d'abord je vais au parc, puis je vais à la bibliothèque. First I go to the park, then I go to the library. See how we're putting together all the things we've learned? We know à la bibliothèque, we know je vais, now we know puis, and we have a very nice sentence with more elements in it than we've had before. Let's try the next one. This means the same thing as puis. Say it after me. It's ensuite. Ensuite. Ensuite, je vais au cinéma. Then I go to the movies. Say it after me. Ensuite, je vais au cinéma. Okay, finally, finalement. Répétez, finalement. Finalement. Finalement, je vais à la maison. Répétez, finalement, je vais à la maison. Alors means so. Répétez, alors. Alors. J'ai faim. Alors je vais au café. I'm hungry, so I go to the cafe. I'm hungry, so I go to the cafe. It can also be in the middle of a sentence. Alors. Okay? Parce que we already know, right? Parce que. Sometimes we just say parce que without the because it might come in front of a vowel. In our sentence, it doesn't. Je vais au café parce que j'ai faim. There are 4 elements you know already. You know je vais, I go. You know au café, to the cafe. You know parce que, and you know j'ai faim, I'm hungry. So really, a foreign language is just like a jigsaw puzzle. It's also very similar to math in that you just need the pieces to put together. If you think about a puzzle, right? The different pieces, je vais au café parce que j'ai faim. You could get those in any order and you'd be able to make a sentence out of them because you know the different pieces, just as in a puzzle. Okay, next one. We know this one too. When is quand? Répétez, quand. Quand. Je joue au foot quand j'arrive au parc. I play soccer when I arrive at the park. Je joue au foot quand j'arrive au parc. I'll say it one more time and you say it after me. Je joue au foot quand j'arrive au parc. Après ça means after that. Après ça. Notice the squiggle under the C, right? It's called a cedille. And it means that the C is pronounced like an S. Anytime you see that cedille under there, you know it's pronounced like an S. Après ça. Répétez. Après ça. Après ça. Okay, repeat the sentence after me. Après ça, je fais un pique-nique. Après ça, je fais un pique-nique. Now, these are the questions that might ask you what you're doing. And I'd like you to copy down this question and write underneath it, what are you doing? And then after that, you can use one of the time phrases that we've learned. Qu'est-ce que tu fais en été? Qu'est-ce que tu fais après l'école? Qu'est-ce que tu fais avec tes copains? These are the kinds of open-ended questions you might find yourself asked to answer. Say the question after me. It's qu'est-ce que tu fais? Qu'est-ce que tu fais? Super. There are some sentences that we can write, some sentence frames that make it easier for us to use the transition words. These are just a few. I'd like you to copy down the sentence frame. You'll see there's some blank spaces, and under the blank spaces, I've said what kind of word needs to go there. We have the transition, right? D'abord, press pause now if you need to copy this, and then press play again. So we're going to go on from copying it. Transition goes in the first blank, right? So let's say we say today, or let's say we say, first. D'abord, je vais, where do I go? À la bibliothèque. How do I get there? Here's our transportation. D'abord, je vais à la bibliothèque à vélo. How did I get to the library? Right, by bike. D'abord, first, je vais, I go, à la bibliothèque, to the library, à vélo, by bike. See how it's a puzzle? You just take these pieces you've learned and put them together. It's actually quite simple. Et je, and I, and then what kind of activity would we do there? Et j'étudie, and I study. D'abord, je vais à la bibliothèque, à vélo, et j'étudie. Let's look at some sentences. You do not have to copy these sentences down unless you want to. D'abord, je vais au parc et je joue au foot. D'abord, first, so that's our transition word that introduces this idea. Je vais au parc et je joue au foot. That's called a transition word because it would transition from whatever happened in the sentence before it. D'abord, je vais au parc et je joue au foot. Let's try another practice of this. Still sentence frame 1. Après ça, je vais à l'école et j'étudie le français. I'm going to say it again, then you say the sentence after me. Après ça, je vais à l'école et j'étudie le français. Okay, our last sample sentence for that first sentence frame. Finalement, je vais au cinéma et je regarde un film. I'll say it again, then you repeat after me. Finalement, je vais au cinéma et je regarde un film. Say it after me. Okay, sentence frame 2. We're going to start our second kind of sentence with quand. When I do something, I go somewhere in a certain way. Let me give you an example in English. When I play soccer, I go to the park by bicycle, right? Let's say I go to the park by bicycle to play. I can switch it around and say, when I play soccer, I go to the bicycle. I go to the park by bicycle. Let's try an example. Copy that one down and then press pause to play again. Here's an example. Quand il pleut, when it rains, quand il pleut, je vais au centre commercial. Quand il pleut, je vais au centre commercial. We don't just want simple, boring sentences now. We want interesting sentences with lots of elements in them. This is how you get an A as we get further and further into French, by writing interesting sentences with lots of elements. I'm going to say the sentence again, then I want you to say it after me. I'll say it. You can say it with me if you want. Quand il pleut, je vais au centre commercial. Here's another one. Quand il neige, je ne vais pas au parc. So we have some negative in there. Quand, when, il neige, it's snowing. Je ne vais pas, I don't go, au parc, to the park. So again, pieces of the puzzle we're just putting together. I'm going to read it one more time, and you say it after me. Quand il neige, je ne vais pas au parc. Great. And we have a third sentence I'd like you to write down. This is actually just with weather. And the last one's used weather too, but that's okay. Whenever the weather is, where do I go? How do I get there? And what do I do? This is a long sentence. Press pause to copy this frame down, and then press play to continue. Let's look. Let's not ignore that one. That one wasn't right. Let's try this one. Quand il fait du soleil, je vais au parc et je fais une promenade. Look how long that sentence is. You are now capable of writing sentences that are long and complicated like that. I'm going to read it in pieces. You say the piece after me. Quand il fait du soleil, je vais au parc et je fais une promenade. Great. And the second one for this form, quand je regarde la télé. So notice this one doesn't actually have the weather, so it's not really following it, but let's do this one anyway. Quand je regarde la télé, je mange du popcorn. When I watch television, I eat popcorn. Pretty good thing to do while you're watching television. Okay, here are the questions again. Remember, qu'est-ce que tu fais en été? What are you doing in the summer? Qu'est-ce que tu fais après l'école? What do you do after school? Qu'est-ce que tu fais avec tes copains? What do you do with your friends? Okay, we're going to practice this. I'm going to read the following paragraphs aloud in French. So I'll read one paragraph. Then you're going to read it out loud on your own to yourself in French. You're doing this in your own room, right? So no one's going to hear you. And then finally, you can either write or speak your translation of the paragraph into English. So let's take a look at the first one. I'm going to read it out loud. Then you're going to read it out loud to yourself. You'll press pause and read it out loud. And then you're going to just translate it into English, right? So the first sentence, you would have read it already, and you would just say, in the summer it's hot. So you can really do that out loud if you want. If you want to write it, you certainly can. So listen to me while I read the paragraph. First, follow along with me. En été, il fait chaud. Alors, je vais à la plage en bus et je nage. Quand il fait du soleil, je vais au parc à pied et je joue au foot avec mes amis. Quand il pleut, je reste à la maison et je regarde la télé avec ma famille. So this is an answer to the question, qu'est-ce que tu fais en été? What do you do in the summer? I'd like you to press pause. Actually, why don't I read it one more time for you? And then we'll press pause and you'll read it to yourself out loud. En été, il fait chaud. Alors, je vais à la plage en bus et je nage. Quand il fait du soleil, je vais au parc à pied et je joue au foot avec mes amis. Quand il pleut, je reste à la maison et je regarde la télé avec ma famille. So I'd like you to press pause, read that aloud, and then press play to go on to the next one. Okay, Second one, qu'est-ce que tu fais après l'école? Here's our answer. I'll read it twice. Après l'école, je vais à la plage en bus et je nage. Après ça, je vais au parc à pied. Puis je joue au foot avec mes amis. Finalement, rentre means go back or come back to, à la maison et je regarde la télé avec ma famille. So where it says je rentre à la maison, that would be I come back home. Let me read it again. Après l'école, je vais à la plage en bus et je nage. Après ça, je vais au parc à pied. Puis je joue au foot avec ma famille. Finalement, je rentre à la maison et je regarde la télé avec ma famille. I'd like you to press pause and read that aloud to yourself and then translate it into English. Here's the third one. Qu'est-ce que tu fais avec tes copains? What do you do with your friends? I'll read it twice. Avec mes copains, je vais à la plage en bus et je nage. Quand il fait du soleil, je vais au parc à pied. Ensuite, je joue au foot avec mes amis. Quand il pleut, je reste à la maison et je regarde la télé avec ma famille. I'll read it again. Follow along. Avec mes copains, je vais à la plage en bus et je nage. Quand il fait du soleil, je vais au parc à pied. Ensuite, je joue au foot avec mes amis. Quand il pleut, je reste à la maison et je regarde la télé avec ma famille. Now you're going to press pause. You're going to read it aloud in French and then go back and read it aloud, but changing it into English, right? So it'll start with my friends, and then you'll translate the story into English. All right, there you go. You've all pressed pause and pressed record and play and press pause and press play, and now we're done. Très bon travail. That means very good work. Remember, the verb travailler means to work, and that's exactly where the word travail comes from. Très bon travail. Alors, which means so, alors on va faire les devoirs indépendants. Something independent, right? You can figure out it means we're going to do, and we know faire is to do, we're going to do our independent work. So this is where I say au revoir et à bientôt. Je te verrai demain. Not getting the words out right.